Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado.
Okay, sit down. So let's get started. So basically, we're going to talk about dishing over dinner, right? I'm going to give you thoughts to ponder. I have no idea if I'm right, if I'm wrong. It makes absolutely no difference. I'm going to tell you what I think, and then hopefully over dinner we'll have some discussion, then we go back later and we'll have more discussion over it. So the first thing we're going to talk about are my axioms for our times, because I think axioms are important. These are the axioms that are going to drive everything that I talk about after this. The first, digital is everything, but not everything is digital. So here's the bottom line. Go Google or Bing. Microsoft is a client, so I have to say Bing at least once during a presentation. You can search it. If you go back 10 years, all the analysts, by the way, the same guys who said WeWork was going to be this huge $50 billion valuation, but we'll talk about that in a second too. All the analysts said that we would be in caves, in front of our computers, everybody was going to be siloed, restaurants were going to die, movie theaters were going to die, sports events were going to die, everything was going to die because we were going to be just totally siloed in front of our computer screens. But here's what happened. In fact, digital unleashed something brand new because we got devices. And once we had handheld devices, we could go any place in the world. So what happened is that digital is everything. Like, there is nothing in the world today that doesn't come from a digital source. In fact, when you go buy coffee in a corner little budka place out in the street, very often the guy has a square. So everything that we do ultimately has a digital component. But not everything is digital, because guess what? Live events are bigger than ever. Movies are still successful. People love restaurants. Whole neighborhoods have come back. I don't know if anybody's been to Larimer. If you have time tomorrow, walk out. It's a block or two over. Just walk up and down the block and get a sense of it. So digital is everything, but not everything is digital. Everybody with me? Good. Second, beware the Digi Babble. Digi Babble is an important concept. Digi Babble is my word. It's a trademark, but you're all welcome to use it. And by the way, you can all have this presentation. So, Carol, we can give everybody who wants, anybody who wants can have this. So beware the Digi Babble. What's Digi Babble? Digi Babble is assigning to digital assets the Harry Potter-like magic. So we've all sat in that client meeting where the client says, David, make me viral. Okay, you're viral. So Digibabble. Digibabble is when we look at things and we don't understand what they are, and we just say, oh my God, it's digital. But we don't pay attention to the fact that they actually might be a retailer, they actually might be a publisher, they might actually be something else. So beware of Digibabble. Third, cut the cord, strangle in the threads. So how many of you are going to get Disney streaming? Raise your hands. Come on, stop lying. How many of you get Disney? Great. So here's what happens. How many of you, keep your hands up, Disney streaming. So you guys with Disney streaming, you also have Netflix, right? How many of you also have Hulu? Okay, so basically what's happening is that we're already, many of us are paying more than we paid for cable. And it's like, what's going on here? Cut the cord, strangle in the threads. There's a problem here. We have a major issue. So to me, this is just a symbol of what's happening in the world. We're not paying attention. So ultimately, and you're seeing it already, we're going to come back with another model so that I don't, because if you really think about it, if you have a good Samsung Smart TV, you've got 80%. If you've got Netflix, you've got 80%. Disney's going to be a little bit different, but let's say you'll have 50%. So ultimately, you're paying a huge premium for a very small percentage of work that you want to see or of content that you want to see. Not a good thing. And finally, and the most important, the only first, it's not digital first, it's not mobile first, it's not wearables first, it's people first. If you don't get that, you're going to fail in all your marketing. I'll tell you right now. And you heard a little bit about that this morning, I think from Val. People first is the only way to market. So let's take a look very quickly. I don't have that much time. We're going to talk about rethinking disruption, purpose, and leadership. And I want to leave time for discussion. Interrupt me if you want. I might ask you questions, so pay attention. So bottom line, this morning's disruption is this afternoon's conventional wisdom. Here's what happens. We start talking about disruption, and before you know it, disruption is the conventional wisdom, and then you realize that it's actually not such good conventional wisdom, and it's no different than the conventional wisdom that we were knocking the month before. So instead of thinking about all the time, what's the new disruption which only becomes conventional wisdom, I think we have to think about what exactly is being disrupted. So, at the end of the day, did any of these companies actually disrupt the people? We talk about them disrupting the market, but did Amazon disrupt the buyer au contraire? They made it easy for us. Warby Parker didn't disrupt the wearer, and by the way, they also didn't disrupt the eyewear company, the eyewear industry either, which they said they would. Uber certainly does not disrupt the rider, and WeWork does not disrupt the worker. Now, if you look at a lot of these companies, in fact, what has been disrupted here? What's been disrupted is the business model, not the business model of you and me buying, but the business model that it relates to them in Wall Street. So think about this. If I had gone 20 years ago, if I was Walmart and I went to the street and I said, you know what, I had this crazy idea. For the next 20 years, I don't want to make a profit. I don't want to make a profit. I'm just going to open stores all over America, and I'm going to sell under margin. So I'm going to make even less of a profit. Like I'm going to totally go under. But I want you to support me and give me this huge valuation because everybody in the country is only going to buy in my stores. Guess what would have happened? Amazon never would have showed up. So this is an issue, right? Let's think about disruption for what it really is. And frankly, this is what's happening. Certainly since Uber, Lyft, and WeWork, even the management consultants at the heart of the cult of disruption struggle to define it. Because disruption, finally everybody's woken up to this notion of what is actually being disrupted. I love this one. Disruption isn't always the answer. It's only half the puzzle. The other half is a non-disruptive creation that is based on value. Hello? Like, what's the value to me? This one I love from Vanity Fair, and just keep this in the back of your mind. San Francisco tech culture is focused on solving one problem. What is my mother no longer doing for me? So we love that. So let's talk about disruption. So when I first met Adam, which was literally day one of the business, I was totally swept away. Like I thought this big virtual thing, they're going to have this big virtual community of people working together. Turns out it was a Ponzi scheme of real estate. And people have just woken up to it lately, but a lot of people made money, my friends. Not you and I, and certainly not the workers, as we know. So I think this notion of disruption needs to be looked at, and let's not even talk about her. That is major disruption. So when I look at this, I say, look at these companies, and let's talk about what really is disruption. Again, I don't have enough time to go through all of them, but I will tell you that if you look at a company like Dick's, is that really disruption, or is he just a smart guy? I've spent a bunch of time with him. He understands who his audience is. He's not pandering. He's not pandering to liberals. He's not pandering to conservatives. He's not pandering to anybody. The man believes in limiting gun violence. So what does he do? He stops selling automatic weapons, and he destroys them. He is, in my view, he is what business should be. He's not a panderer. He's doing the right thing. He doesn't think he's disrupting. He thinks he's doing the right thing. But I want you to think about all these companies. I want you to think about Nike, and I want you to think, is anybody here from Nike before I trash you? Think about Colin. If Nike was really disruptive, if they were really serious, the minute he took the knee in that first game, Nike would have said, yes, we're behind this guy. It took them 2 years. It took them 2 years until they watched all his stuff selling, and they saw that 2 years later it was still selling. They put up one big poster someplace that they knew would get a ton of social media and declared victory as disruptive. Not my view. So I look at this and I say it's not disruption, it's actually dissidence. So what's dissidence? Dissidence is about creating movements. Disruption, we'll talk about in a second, but dissidence is about creating movements. Movements are important. Movements bring people together. Movements create coalitions. They coalesce people. All of these companies like Patagonia, Dick's, Whole Foods, even Gillette and Nike, they create dissonance. They get us interested in something, and they bring us together as consumers. So disruptors talk to themselves. Listen carefully. Disruptors talk to themselves and to Wall Street, but they talk to themselves. Dissidents talk to people. So if I'm a real marketer, I don't want to be a disruptor. I don't want to talk to myself. I want to be a dissident. I want to talk to people. I want to create movement. I want people with me. So my view is brands can become dissidents by channeling the customer. So how do I believe that? Why do I believe that? Because I think Jeff Bezos is the smartest person in America. Nobody pays attention to what he really says. If we can keep our competitors focused on us, or we stay focused on the customer, ultimately will turn out all right. Jeff Bezos. So Jeff Bezos yells drones, and everybody goes, oh my God, I got to get my drone thing going. Meanwhile, he opens up stores all over the place and is selling like crazy, and they're running after drones. Jeff is smart. Jack Ma, we sit here and we look and we say, oh my God, look what just happened on Singles Day. Isn't this unbelievable? Like, what's happening in China? Listen to what Jack Ma says. Jack Ma says, I came here, I studied Amazon. He goes, I don't know what's wrong with you people. He said, like, I'm watching what you do in America. That's why I'm successful. So again, he say, if I were you, I'd focus on customers. So there you have it. If we can keep, sorry, it's not, here we go. So now let's move on to purpose. Everybody with me? So that's my view. That's my view of the first. So keep your questions, and I got to move fast so we have questions. So purpose. Does purpose really drive everything? So how many of you have been to that meeting where somebody from your board or some analyst walks in or just somebody who works here says, you know, we've got to be a purposeful company because only purposeful companies make money. Right? Only purposeful companies make money. We know that. That's a truth. It's a conventional wisdom. And so 78% of Americans say that it's no longer acceptable for companies to just make money. They expect companies to positively impact society as well. And to prosper over time, every company must not only deliver financial performance, but also show how it makes a positive contribution to society. That's Lawrence Fink. So if you believe that, he's from BlackRock, like, I'll sell you a bridge. Because he's also holding everybody to quarterly earnings in a way that nobody else is. So let's look at these. I love these. Corporate statements of purpose. So if you really want to be purposeful, you have to have a corporate statement of purpose, right? Because you can't be, right? So here, I've taken just a few, and I've ranged them from functional to lofty. Let's start with the functional. So Google got smart, and instead of saying do no evil, because by the time like they did so much evil, it was like forget about it, organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So that's good, right? That's pretty easy. We get it. We understand it. We can keep going up. I'm just going to go up to the top. JetBlue, okay? Anybody here from JetBlue? I love JetBlue. They're a great airline. They're wonderful to fly. To inspire humanity, both in the air and on the ground, give me a break. Like, I don't know about you. When I'm there, I'm just going, shit, this is great. I got leg room. But I'm not sure that they're actually inspiring me on the air and on the ground. So that's a problem. So let's look at Peloton, because here's a company of purpose that had great, unbelievable statements of purpose written. And here's what happens. People's radar for Yoga Babble, which is similar to my Digi Babble, is on a high alert right now. They're talking about delivering happiness and connecting people. But no, you sell exercise equipment. This is what happened after they tried to go public. Now, what's really interesting is, anybody know this? That they're starting to open studios. So they were smart. They didn't do it. They didn't start here. They started in London because they figured nobody would pay attention because it's London. But like, give me a break, all right? So what is really purposeful and what's not? And again, I'm just throwing this out there because I want you just to think. This is all for dinner conversation. So Indra's awesome. She's a wonderful one. This is what they said to her. Don't be Mother Teresa. Your job is to sell soda and chips. So these same people, by the way, who said that you have to have purpose, otherwise you're not going to make money. Paul Pullman is one of my absolute favorite people in the world. Paul Pullman was the recent CEO of Unilever. Paul made money. The stock made money. The company made money quarter over quarter over quarter, and they still trolled him to death. And this is what somebody said. Pullman's problem is his eagerness to put superficial, feel-good policies ahead of sound business decisions. And one of the analysts said to him on a call, Paul, use your own money to do good. Stop using ours. So there you go. So Uber, how many of you use Uber? Keep your hands up high. High, all of us, right? How many of us think we're really purposeful people? Keep your hands up. No, I'm serious, come on. And how many of us would say in a conversation, yeah, sure, I'd pay 5 cents more to do something that was purposeful, or 10 cents more, or even 20 cents more? We're all full of crap because we use Uber. We use the absolute least purposeful business in the world where they don't take care of their drivers, they exploit their workers, and I don't have to tell you that sometimes it's also dangerous to drive. So the truth of the matter is, what does all that mean? What it means is trust with purpose can still drive value, but it has to be more compelling than convenience and price. Because the truth of the matter is, my friends, that convenience and price is trumping us all the time on purpose. No matter how purposeful we think we are, we're just not. It's just not happening. All right, let's move on to leadership, and it'll still give me some time for questions. Am I going too fast? Good. Leadership. There is a leadership crisis in the world. Gee, who knew? So this comes from our own study. It's BAV, Best Country Study. It's a proprietary WPP study. This is really amazing, right? People perceive a leadership crisis in the world today. So this is global. So it's 82% average, so business decision makers, citizen leaders, and millennials. So it's interesting, the millennials are a little bit lower on it, and I assume it's just because they actually don't care. So they're not really paying attention to what's happening. But when you look at business decision makers and business decision makers, BDMs and citizen leaders, that's pretty high, right? Like 83% of the people think that there's a problem. Now this is interesting. Citizens trust private companies more than governments to take care of their needs. And here is actually where millennials trump, right? So millennials have a slightly higher thing. So think about this, right? People really believe it. And so I think back to New York City, and I'm not making a political statement here, God help me, but a number of years ago, I don't remember how many, maybe 20, I think. So there's a very famous ice skating rink in New York City in Central Park called Wallman Ring. And for a year and a half, they'd been trying to fix it. They couldn't get it ready. So they missed one winter, the second winter, and this guy, this loudmouth called Donald Trump, comes ahead and says, hey, I'll fix it, I'll have it ready in time. I'm a private company, I have my own contractors, I can do it, but you have to call it Trump Ring. Guess what? It's still called Trump Ring. So the truth is that very often private companies, even his private companies, were able to do things that other people couldn't do. So now let's come back to this notion, let's look at leadership, but also let's look at how this relates to purposefulness. So CEOs are saying that shareholder value is no longer everything, right? So if we're going to solve that issue of leadership, and if people are looking to private companies to solve those problems, then we need to be leaning into it because that's how they perceive the way to make money. So you see the connection between those two things, right? So they're seeing that that's the way to go. But the debate rages on because it's profits or public interest. And so which is it? And can you do both? And it's just not clear that you can. So the thing that is clear, though, that what all of this has brought up is that leadership and power are too often conflated, right? So we look at leadership, we look at power, and we look at leadership, and we look at the ability to solve problems, and we look at the stock market, we look at all these things. We say, like, who's a leader and who has power? So let me tell you quickly what leaders are not. And by the way, I write about this stuff. You can find it on my LinkedIn. I'm very proud. I'm one of the top 10 LinkedIn global, whatever they call them. So if you don't read me, please follow me because, like, everyone's good. What leaders are not. Leaders are not appointed. I can't say that you're emperor. Like, hey, you're emperor. You're empress, excuse me. Or emperor, either one. But, like, okay, great. What does that mean? Like, nobody's going to believe it. So you can't be appointed. Hierarchically defaulted is crap. Org charts are nonsense. You're not the leader because you have the biggest salary, by far. Fanciest title. The loudest doesn't make you the leader. It just makes you the loudest. And the meanest just makes you a four-letter word. So at the end of the day, these are the things that leaders are not. But what leadership is about, humility, listening, and openness. That's a picture of me with somebody I think is just one of the world's greatest leaders. And again, you can read my view on him on LinkedIn. I wrote a whole piece about the Pope and leadership. So here is an Orthodox Jewish boy who spent an hour privately with the Pope. Go figure that out. And so my piece, and I was with a rabbi, so it was a rabbi, an ad man, and a lawyer go to the Pope. And so like it sounds like the craziest joke in the world, but it was true. But here's a man, right? So you've all been to that meeting that I've been to, where you sit down and somebody comes in and says, David, sorry, but John's going to be a little late. He's just on another call. He's wrapping up another meeting. And you sit there like an ass for 45 minutes. Like, what am I, chopped liver? Like, why am I less important than that call? At the appointed time, this man walked into the room. Nobody opened the door and said, ladies and gentlemen, the Pope. He just came in. He had no entourage. He wasn't carrying anything. And I studied this stuff. I'm really into this. So I was looking for the shoes of the fisherman, right, which, by the way, are today made by Prada. They're $10,000 a pair. The previous Pope loved them. That's all he wore. This guy was wearing a pair of $80 orthopedic shoes. Unbelievable. Humble. He listened. He was open. That is what leadership is about. And if we don't understand that, then we're not going to understand what leadership it really is. And leaders are always in beta. This is the greatest thing to me. I think that at the end of the day, we somehow think that if we're leaders or we want to be leaders, that we have to be always with the right answer. We have to know. We have to feel the experience. It's just not true. The greatest leaders in the world were always in beta. They were always testing. Charlton Heston, well, Moses, had no idea what he was doing. Read the Bible. You know, Abraham Lincoln talked about it all the time. Abraham Lincoln didn't prepare for the Civil War. It just happened to him. Leaders are in beta. So a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Nothing strengthens authority so much as silence. I wrote a whole piece on this, on the sounds of silence. I think, and this is Da Vinci, I think it's amazing when you think about that. The challenge of leadership is to be strong, not rude, kind, not weak, not a bully, thoughtful, not lazy, humble, but not timid. That, to me, kind of wraps up the whole leadership thing. So we have this problem of leadership because people don't get this, because people are loud and they're mean, and they think somehow that connotes leadership, and it's wrong. So again, I come back to my starting point. This morning's disruption is this afternoon's conventional wisdom. So we believe these things because people tell them to us. We lean into them, but very quickly they become old. So rather than letting something become old, I think we just sort of need to be more open, step back a little bit, understand that what was is still good, or still might be good, or might not be, but it's okay. We don't have to pretend anymore. We don't have to talk about digital first, because everything is digital, so what's the point? We don't have to talk about the things that aren't important, but we have to talk about people and be clued into people, because that's all that's important. So, what do you think? Let's go. Questions? Comments? Agree, don't agree? You're not going to get dinner unless I get 5 questions. So, somebody start. Is this one mine?
Yeah, that one's yours.
Good.
So, thinking about purpose. Now, isn't there a middle way that you would say it's not just about making the money? The money is the byproduct of focusing on the people. So maybe you're not Jetblue, you're not like lofty, inspiring humanity, but you're like, how do we make a human experience which will make you happy about having legroom, which will have you pay a premium for a ticket, which will allow them to do. Do you know what I mean?
Like, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think you're right. So I think that every company has to look at it and say, what's my real purpose? Right? What's the thing? So how many clients do I have? How many clients have I had? How many companies have come to me and said, okay, I want to be involved in X, right? Whatever it is. So they like it because it's cool and they're big stars involved, whatever. But what does it have to do with your business? And so it has nothing to do with your business. You spend a lot of money and it looks good because then you go with your chairman and you go with the CEO and you go and you hang out and you talk and you do things. But it's not really purposeful to what you do. And my view is that clients, customers, your buyers get the fact that it's okay for you to market it. Like, look at Avon. Avon's always my biggest example of the best, in my view, the best purposeful company. Avon understood all those years ago, they're a women's company, they sell to women, women are important to them, breast cancer was a major issue, right? It needed in those days, it's not that it's not today, but it needed to be raised because people didn't talk about it, but people got that they could market with it too. It was okay. It was good because it was true. But had they connected with some other thing, I don't know, whatever, homelessness, it wouldn't have been quite the same thing. Not that homelessness is bad, it's great, but not their business. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that answer the question? Okay, you got to align purpose. Thank you. You can stick with me. I need you. Who's next? Who's got a point, a question? Somebody? Nobody? Dinner's coming anyways. It's all right. One more question, at least. Yes?
No, I'm not going to ask a question. I came in late, Dave.
Oh, there you go.
You want to start over?
I don't think so.
We have one over here.
Yes, over there we got one.
So you're in a room full of chief marketing officers or those that aspire to be chief marketing officers. When you look back over your career, which chief marketing officer do you think most highly of and why?
Which chief marketing officer do I think most highly of and why? So I think very highly, I think highly of a few, many. I mean, many have been my friends. Beth Comstock is one of my favorite because I think that Beth had integrity. I think that she was honest. She said what was on her mind. She understood it. I think the biggest problem, if I may, with chief marketing officers has been that there are very few chief marketing officers who are really in the C-suite. And I think it's a problem. I did a piece for Bloomberg. When Bloomberg hired Marie McGuire as their first CMO, Dan Doctorow, who was the CEO at the time, asked me to write a paper for him on why CMOs, you heard Val talk about it this morning, why they had such short tenure, why they weren't working. So I did a lot of research, I did a lot of studying. I went and saw all the different studies that have been done. And basically what it said is they just weren't in the C-suite. And so to me, the problem is if you're a CMO, what happens today with many CMOs, and God forbid anybody in this room, but you come in, so the first thing you do is you change your agency. Like, first of all, you shouldn't even know who your agency is. You're the CMO, you're in the C-suite. Like, don't pay attention to that. You got an ad director, let them deal with it. But you change your ad agency, you start a pitch, and now you got 6 months. Then that takes 6 months to do. Then it takes 6 months to onboard them, so that's 12 months. Then you got 6 months to launch a new campaign, so that's 18 months, and then you leave. So I think that might answer the question. Yes?
Hey, well, let's start on the leadership. Go from the CMO side to the agency side. Who is great leaders
On the agency side?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Harold Burson. Harold Burson, the founder of Burson Marsteller. He's 97 years old. He's still working. He's incredible. He's my mentor. Harold had integrity. He was smart. He started his business back in the day because he couldn't get a job. Basically, he couldn't get a job because of discrimination, and he started an agency and became the #1 agency in the world. Lester Wonderman, who founded Wonderman, incredible leader, amazing leader. I think he's fabulous. Maurice Levy. Maurice, I never worked for Maurice. He's Publicis. I'm very close to him. I think he's just an incredible leader. He's smart. He has integrity. He's an iron fist, in a velvet glove for sure. Having not worked for him, so I only get the velvet glove. But I have to say that he inspires me. Alex Kroll, who I worked for at Y&R, who was a legend, was also that kind of a leader. So I think there's no lack of them.
Is there anybody under 60?
Who's a great leader? You don't want me to go there. I think that the generation coming up hasn't figured it out yet, in my view. There's nobody who stands out as a leader. I mean, there's some great people who are running great agencies, doing amazing work, but I just don't see that same kind of leadership integrity that's true to the market. No, honestly. One more? Yes. Phew. What's tomorrow afternoon's conventional wisdom? I'll tell you what it is. Tomorrow afternoon's conventional wisdom goes back to drones. So we need to be focused more on drone delivery because there's a big test going on now. It's starting in North Carolina. And so what's going to happen is we're going to say disruption, 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 and then it's going to be conventional wisdom that I need to have a drone delivery program. And it concerns me because here's what's going to happen, right? If that's the case, then whoever, there'll be drone delivery. And I think that's great. And there will be, by the way. I'm on the board of UNICEF. We've been using drones for 20 years. Because how do you think we get supplies to places where there are people shooting you up? So there will be drone delivery, but it's not it's not the thing that I want to fall into. It's not what I want to believe in. The only conventional wisdom that I want to have today are basic marketing tenets that it's about people. See, my view, and I don't know how many of you agree or disagree, you can talk about it at dinner, the basic tenets of marketing have not changed. As much as we talk about everything's changed, nothing's changed. And that's the problem. And it's also the opportunity. What's changed is we're an industry, in my view, we're an industry that has always been at the forefront of technology. So think about this and then I'll end. Think about this, right? So in a cave someplace, however many thousands, hundreds, tens of thousands of years ago, some guy, non-sexist, non-gender, could have been a woman, takes a stick that had been in the fire, so that the tip of it is like a little ashy, sticks it in some berries, and starts going like this on the cave wall, and goes, wow, like, look at that. That's pretty cool. And before you know it, there's a whole hunt scene painted. And you've all seen that picture because it's in a cave in France. So what happened? Everybody's going, wow, that's the coolest thing I ever saw. And so all of a sudden, we created something new. That was technology, right? We moved into papyrus. We moved into rock. We moved into whatever it is. Then paper comes along. Then the biggest revolution, in my view, the real disruption, there's only one disruption that happened. That was Gutenberg. Because what happened was, up until that point, information was siloed. Information was resident in one place, in monks, in monasteries, rich people. All of a sudden, this guy Gutenberg comes and says, hey, paper, this is real simple. I can print stuff like this. And there's this explosion of information that's been going on till today. And then we had television and radio, cinema. And each one of those things has been a completely new technology. So radio, do you know what they used to do early radio? They read newspaper because they didn't know what else to do. And then they figure out, wow, you know what? I can do shows. I can do music. I can broadcast. This is incredible technology, but they figured it out. Then comes TV. Do you know what early TV was? You ever see the original kinescopes of the thing? Get people standing in front of radio microphones reading scripts. That was early TV because they didn't know how to use it. The technology was there. They just didn't know how to use it. We made it better and better and better and better. And then came digital, and we said, technology, oh my God. And we lost the plot. Now we're getting the plot back. And I think that that's the critical thing. So I hope that answers the question. Thank you all very much. What would you wish for? Find it on Amazon. And we have Amazon Prime will get you a special deal if you buy it. And thank you.